The name of this video is called There's Unity in Hip Hop, but there's no unity in the white man's world. I like the way my man Yasin Bey, aka Mos Def, says this.
I'm alive on planet Earth. My country is Earth. I'm from a country called Earth like everybody else.
It also reminds me of what Louis Farrakhan said about this.
I'm African and I'm American. Who said so? Before there was an Africa, before there was an America, we were. What were we then? You Johnny-come-latelys tying yourself to nothing. You don't get your identity from any landmass. All of us come out of the earth and we go back to the earth. You get your identity from the nature in which you are created. You can't define me by no little piece of territory. I am a Jamaican. I am Barbadian. I'm from Trinidad. I'm from Ghana. I'm from Guinea. I am a Nigerian. You let some little island in the Caribbean divide you from your brother. You let some artificial boundary on the African continent made by boundaries made by your enemy divide you from one another. You let an ocean and the sea divide you from one another. You're foolish people, all of us. And we need God to give us some sense.
Being that we do live on one planet, but somehow we became who we are because of landmass. I'm 52 years old. I never thought I would have so much animosity towards certain groups of people. And I have to emphasize the word group, because this group calls themselves a lineage. But for the past 6 to 7 years, this group has been practicing separation. I don't even want to reference them or display an image revealing them. I think people are intelligent enough to know who I'm talking about. I respect the ancestors who have died teaching our people and trying to liberate our people. I also respect the elders, those my age or younger, who continue where some of the elders and ancestors left off. These particular people don't speak or teach with the rhetoric of division.
Now, Africa has always and still is the prize for the whole world. We as a people have always been the world's richest people, culturally rich, mineral rich. We have always been the prize because we have always had and still have something that other people won't, think they can't do without, and don't care to pay for.
The word "we" that Dr. John Henry Clarke uses in his speech is important to me, because it lets me know that regardless of how other black folk want to separate themselves from Africa, and that goes for vice versa, that type of separation is forbidden. And only an ignorant person or people believe that type of separation is necessary. Those who wholeheartedly believe in this type of separation, well, it reminds me what a 22-year-old Tupac once said.
Fuck the next nigga. You know, if that nigga want to be a gangbanger, he don't want to follow your way, fuck that nigga. Trust me, he's out of here. He's out of here.
What Tupac was expressing in that clip is if a person is not down for the cause, then that person must be removed. Otherwise, the lack of unity and heart just further prolongs the revolution. The lack of unity is the real reason to this prolonging. Malcolm X said this a week before he died.
They projected the image of Africa negatively. They projected Africa always in a negative light. Jungles, savages, cannibals, nothing civilized. And naturally, it was so negative until it was negative to you and me. And you and I began to hate it. We didn't want anybody to tell us anything about Africa, and much less call us an African. And in hating Africa and hating the African, we ended up even hating ourselves without even realizing it. Because you can't hate the roots of a tree and not hate the tree. You can't hate your origin and not end up hating yourself.
I don't hate myself, and I shouldn't have animosity towards my own people. But when you disregard the ancestors who really died for a cause, then you're displaying the most ultimate form of disrespect towards our ancestors. I'm not saying all our ancestors were correct or incorrect, but if they died for what they believe in, and you, who simply talks with no action, can't say the ancestors were incorrect. Because what I presently see is extremely incorrect. Separation from your own people makes me think of this quote by Dr. Clark.
And what we have to understand now, in the period of superior brainwashing, is there is no European answer for African problems. Either Africans find a solution to African problems, or there is no solution. And if you don't find a solution soon, you go back into slavery.
When I say don't disrupt the unity in hip-hop, meaning we have other humans who truly respect this black art form that was created as a means to eliminate violence, point out how poverty is destroying people, and the many inhumane acts that plague a society. KRS-One told Fat Joe this during the interview.
Because the whole world is so sick of their government globally. So, okay, no government is in good standing with the people. None. There's not one government on earth that can say, I got the respect of my people. Not one. Okay? The only urban government that got the respect of the world's people is hip-hop. And when we realize that as hip-hoppers, we're going to unite. And we're going to be like, you know what? We don't need you. We don't need you. We don't need you. And we don't want you. We're going to unite around our own principles, around our own laws, build our own courts, open our own schools. We don't need you.
KRS-One also mentioned the real color is real.
And then you felt their heart was pure. I see you with more Puerto Ricans than black guys, including Fat Joe. No, real shit. No doubt. I see you with Asians. I see you with white guys. Whoever's pure and real, you never seen a color like that. Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And real is the only true color. Huh? Real is the only true color.
There were people upset about what KRS said. So here's a thorough example of what KRS means.
You talk about Frederick Douglass, someone who is known for his intellect, his great writing ability, and his abolitionist stance. However, Frederick Douglass paled in comparison as a leader in the freedom struggle when you talk about a white man like John Brown. Why is that?
Well, because John Brown wanted to raid Harper's Ferry to try to free the black slaves in this country.
And again, John Brown was white.
John Brown was white.
Felt he had a duty given to him from God to which he dedicated his wife, his children, and all his resources.
Yes, sir. And what he said is that if I can go into Harper's Ferry and take that armory and get enough weapons and free the blacks, he said I can use that as use those mountains like a stake and drive it into the heart of racism in America. If I can free enough of those blacks and arm them and send them into those hills, nobody could ever bring them back. I can break the back of racism in America. But what he needed, he said, but for me to do it successfully, I must have a high visible black person who would come with me and call the blacks out. They're not going to come out for me. They'll come out. I must have a black that they have trust in and confidence in. They must call them out. The two most visible blacks in the United States at that time was Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman. And so John Brown met and asked Frederick Douglass. Well, first he asked Harriet Tubman, but Harriet Tubman was sick and she couldn't come. Mm-hmm. And he asked Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass met with him for a whole week. They went off and discussed it. And he said, you got to come with me and call the blacks out. And Frederick Douglass said to him, so let's be straight on one thing, John Brown. He says, I'm always ready to fight for black folk. Look, I'm a white man, but I'm ready to die for them. Would you ready to do that? And in that light, Frederick Douglass wilted. And on his deathbed, he confessed that he was scared to death. So John Brown went on his own and took the armory and held that city at bay for a day and a half. And I think about 52 blacks did escape. But he paid the high penalty. But he said that was his calling from God. And if he had had a black to call those black folk out of slavery, the slavery would have been broken in 1859.
Now, Tupac knew unity was the key. And Tupac also looked at his record sales as votes.
You know what I thought when I was in jail? What fucked me up, what turned me like this, is I was like, no politicians is even getting at us. Even though I represent 5 million fucking sales. And no politicians even checking for it. They're not even sending us nothing, trying to make us, they're not even thinking of it. And in business, you know, if you want to fuck with somebody, you try to, they're not even looking at us like that. That means we ain't a threat. Right. But by the next election, I promise, I'm going to be sitting across from all the candidates. I bet you. You know how I be making it? I promise you. I'm not even gonna be. I'm gonna be so far from where I am now in 4 years. God willing, I'm alive. It's on. I guarantee you, we will have our own political party, and it won't be just for black people. It's gonna be for Mexicans. It's gonna be for Mexicans. It's gonna be for black people. It's gonna be for Armenians. I don't give a fuck. All you lost tribe motherfuckers right now, we need to have our own political party because we all have the same motherfucking problem. We built this nation, and we get none of the benefits.
Tupac was intelligent enough to know that it's just not black folk buying his records. This is why Tupac told Ed Gordon this.
If you really look at this situation, it is not I who's being pimped. When you look at them white kids with Raiders hats on, it's the white folks getting pimped. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm making their future. I'm writing down their curriculum. Right now, what I write in my album today, when it comes out in 2 months, that's what white kids is doing. So who really is getting pimped? What I'm writing in my raps is what them white kids is gonna be saying to their mamas and daddies when they come home. Who is getting pimped?
The things Tupac said come from a Black Panther revolutionary background. Listen to what Fred Hampton said.
This is the oppressed, this is the oppressor, this is the exploited, this is the exploiter. And these people in this class have divided themselves. They say, I'm black and I hate white people. I'm white and I hate black people. I'm Latin American and I hate hillbillies. I'm hillbilly and I hate Indians. So we fight amongst each other. And why? Because they want to keep you to believing that I'm your enemy. And everybody else that's black and that wears a lot of hair on his head and hair on his face, they want to keep you thinking that he's your enemy. Why? Because if ever you would throw away that question of racism and started to dealing with little logic, there would be no one else you could attack other than Hanrahan and other than Tricky Dicky Nixon.
However, no other cause in the world has successfully united races together like the culture of hip-hop. Many people don't know the real reason hip-hop was created. Now, we can leave hip-hop alone and continue to deal with the struggle the way our ancestors and elders deal or dealt with it. Or we can give it a try through hip-hop. Otherwise, if we're going to continue to talk race superiority and race inferiority, then all races must put down their weapons and physically fight straight up for their race. And whatever person of that race is still standing, then that's the race who will continue to dictate society. Unfortunately, it won't happen that way. And we're not going to get anywhere with what's taking place at this juncture in society. Hip-hop, to me, has always looked as the right way to go. But with all this nonsense that's been plaguing hip-hop these past 50 years, and that's mainly exploitation, misogyny, violence directed towards our own people, and too much partying bullshit, it's been difficult to see that hip-hop can destroy the oppressor. So this video was created just to show that what we need in the white man's world is unity. What we have in the hip-hop world is unity. But when it's being disrupted by people who say you're not a part of this, you're not a part of that, a lot of us have made our money with different races. I've been to many parties where different races were there and we enjoyed the culture of hip-hop, even regardless of the content of the music. So I say there's unity in hip-hop, but if you disrupt that unity, or you're bringing the disunity that's in the white man's world into the hip-hop world, then we automatically are going to have chaos. And that's something I personally don't want.
What a fucking amazing phenomenon that the genre of music was created in New York City, and now it's a global phenomenon.
There's a prevailing metric that exists that does not take the artist into consideration at all. That really doesn't take humanity into consideration at all, to be perfectly candid. And what we're doing is a very human thing. So we're not going to let the machine set the pace for us.